From aliens to zombies and everything in between, this is Paranormal A to Z.
Ethereal, spiritual, incorporeal, spectral. These are all words we'll be talking about today. Isn't that right, Austin?
That's right. That encompasses all of the words we'll say.
Well, that's because right now we are in a dark, creepy warehouse. Place where we work, actually. We've turned off all the lights. Because tonight we're going to be talking about some of our own personal ghost experiences.
Ooh.
And I know you're excited about this because you've been very into and very sort of inundated with ghost stuff, I think, for as long as I've known you.
Oh yeah, I have loved this sort of thing ever since I can remember. In 4th grade, I did a project about UFO abductions. I was in Catholic school, and I did a project about UFO abductions.
Sounds very popular.
Oh, I was. Right? Right, everybody?
Right.
But no, I've loved this sort of thing since I was little. My family members would tell me ghost experiences they have had. And so I've grown up with it. And I find it very interesting, and I've personally never seen a ghost.
I haven't either. I feel like I've felt strange things. I feel like the concept of a person's spiritual or psychic energy leaving behind traces or influencing our world is very possible. Haven't experienced it personally. I've seen a lot of very creepy things that I think have explanations if you dig into them, but that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about weird, ghostly stuff.
Without explanation.
Right. Or with some explanation with not so obvious explanations, let's say.
Okay, I like that. That's a good way to go about it.
So I haven't decided which one of us should go first. Should we play rock, paper, scissors, or should we just start throwing punches at each other? Or should we ask the spirits?
I think we're going to have to throw punches.
I think we're going to have to. I think you're right. Actually, no.
Kick it off. Kick it off, Zach.
Okay, so I attended college in Athens, Ohio. Are you familiar with this place?
I have been there once. My buddy showed me around. He had been super drunk when he had been there, so his tour was through the beer-shaded memories.
My entire college experience is beer-shaded. It really is. Like, there's not much to do in Athens, Ohio. Like,
well.
what people don't realize about this place is that there are two things you can do. You can study, or you can drink. There's pretty much nothing else. I mean, the socialization comes along with the drinking, but that's pretty much the only options you have.
All you've done there is really embedded the validity of your future ghost stories.
That's correct, because nothing says ghost story like total inebriation. Because just the things that I would end up doing while drunk, or things that I thought were happening while I was drunk, or maybe just the recollection I have of things while I was drunk, it's all kind of unclear what was really going on.
We're going to delve into all of that, and that's going to be great.
Yes, we are. Okay.
But I remember specifically, it was on a weird road trip. We stopped in Athens. He was showing me around. He was trying to remember where things were and leading us in the wrong directions. And I remember,
perfect.
He couldn't drive at this point. He didn't have his driver's license, so I drove all day. And I remember we walked down a hill where he said something was. He's like, oh no, that's not down here, that's my fault. So we walked back up the hill, and just before the top of the hill, I get leg cramps in both of my quads, and I couldn't move, and I was just stuck there on the slope. Oh, this is fantastic.
I'm sorry I laughed at that, but my God, that is just such a you thing to happen. Oh, that's
yes,
great.
It is. So
man.
But I remember Athens was a very beautiful campus.
Oh, gorgeous, beautiful place.
I mean, we were there. I think it was the last week. I think it was finals week. So there were just parties continuously. Every time we tried to turn down a street, there was a party there. We couldn't get through, so we had to kind of double back. The one weird thing we did see there that we actually drove past that we had read online was the statue in the one cemetery that supposedly weeps.
Oh, yes, the one that weeps oil or perhaps blood, as some people have claimed to see.
Many statues like weeping blood for some reason. I don't know why.
This isn't an uncommon thing.
No, blood weeping.
Blood weeping, yes, that's disgusting. It sounds like a terrible, terrible illness. Something I wouldn't wish on anybody.
Yeah. You know who commonly gets it? Statues.
Yeah.
Think about that, everybody.
Yeah. Please
Quit
think.
passing along blood weeping to your decorative statues.
Gosh. So what I'm guessing is that your friend led you down there because historically Athens is known as a very, very haunted place.
Yeah, I've read some about Athens. It's okay. You're gonna have to correct me on some of this. You know better than I.
Maybe.
So allow me to, these are just things I have heard.
Okay.
I've heard about the insane asylum.
Right.
It's called the Ridges.
That's correct.
Okay, I've heard about that. I've heard that a lot. Like in some dorms, there's a lot of things. It always seems to be the students are on the top floor, and the floor above them is off limits to students, but they hear noises above them.
That has occurred. I can't remember off the top of my head which dorm that was, but it's that's a thing.
And supposedly isn't Athens built or mapped out kind of on a 5-pointed star?
There are 5 cemeteries around the town that form the shape of the pentagram.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It doesn't really lend itself to the most peaceful of places if you are literally laying out your dead people in the shape of a satanic symbol. I feel like that's a recipe for.
Well, you have to look at it. I believe the 5-pointed star, depending on the point of where the star is pointed, it means 2 different things. I believe there is the satanic version, but there's also one I believe which is the pagans version of it, which is a protection star.
I don't know. Either way, I'm terrified.
Okay.
I did live there for 4 years, and I feel
complete terror and drunkenness.
Well, that's correct. Yes. Well, that's.
You're
I
like
think
a character out of a Lovecraft novel.
The Shadow over Innsmouth is actually about my college experience in Athens, Ohio.
So many frogmen. So many frogmen, and somehow a harbor.
Yeah, a harbor in southeastern Ohio. But
you have it. It is what it is.
Yeah, that is what it was. But it's interesting you brought up the Ridges because that is where the experience that I am going to speak about occurred.
Awesome.
Now, the Ridges, while defunct, still stood while I was attending college there. It's since been torn down.
Okay.
Many reasons as to why. But what sat there was the Athens Lunatic Asylum. Now, this is a very big, grandiose establishment. If you think of an insane asylum inside of a movie, you would probably picture a place kind of like this,
like giant stone walls,
yes,
maybe like early 1900s architecture. This thing has stood forever, and it just looks terrifying.
Right, it's better than early 1900s. It was actually erected in 1874.
Fantastic.
So not even turn of the century, old,
that's Civil War era.
Oh yeah,
asylum.
With just hulking structures, just cobwebs. At the time in there, it was just graffitied out, just shit, just placed all over the place. Windows broken out, turning yellow, just the classic look of an abandoned, creepy place. Basically, the setting to every Call of Duty game ever. I'm just kidding. But really, your picturesque, sort of creepy, gross environment that just looks like nobody's been in there in years, and you really don't belong.
And it's that kind of environment that also leads me to believe it makes me concerned of how many stories are actually true, because the environment itself breeds a fear.
Absolutely. It's just there's an inherent fear when you walk in there. You instantly feel as if I do not belong here. Something is amiss.
Yeah, it's the history. The place. This was an insane asylum, and with the notion that it's an insane asylum, you have this mental image of this. If you've ever seen videos of places that were condemned, or the conditions that people used to be in, you have this idea people sitting on floors in their own filth, because mental disabilities back then were treated so differently.
Oh yeah.
And so you have that picture in your mind. It's this giant, sweeping, massive, mean, ugly-looking structure sitting there. It's cold. It's lifeless. It's just the whole setting breeds this notion in your head, what's in there?
Right, and it's not very conducive to positive feelings.
Oh no!
And not really a place where you would go to cheer yourself or anybody for that matter up. It's actually, when you think about it, it's probably the last place you want to put a person who has a mental disability. This is not going to be conducive to forward thinking and to healing, which is what these people really needed at the time. But that's not what they got in this place. No, this place was notorious for a very specific type of treatment.
Can I guess?
Yes, go ahead.
Electroshock.
Electroshock did happen there, but it's not what it was known for.
Okay, do I get a second guess?
One more guess.
Okay. Lobotomy.
That's correct.
Yes!
A lot of frontal lobe scrambling, just sticking rods up the nasal cavity and just destroying the frontal lobes of these people. So they would be very well behaved, but you're also basically removing their humanity. Now, this happened hundreds of times in this place over a long period of time. But, I mean, I went into this place thinking I'm going to feel something, I'm going to see something, and I was creeped out the entire time.
Okay, so set the evening, set the mood for us. What was going on? What was everything going up to that moment? And then just kind of take us by a play-by-play, because this is, everything built up to this moment affects the experience.
Absolutely right. So, at the time, I was dating a girl named Cameron. She was a freshman at the time. I was a sophomore.
That's not a spooky name, but continue.
Not very. My friend from out of town, Brenna, came in.
Okay.
And she had never been to Athens before. So we were just sort of taking her through the motions of what you do in Athens. So we were all obviously getting very drunk with my friends. And she had heard about these ridges. And she's into creepy, ghostly stuff.
Okay.
So she was like, let's check this place out. It's also just a cool place to see and that you've been inside of. My girlfriend was a photographer, so a weird, textured, strangely lit, strangely colored environment was just just so many opportunities for cool pictures, and we got many of those. But you have to sneak into this place. It was completely abandoned. It was off limits, just covered in fences topped with barbed wire. And just really just set, they call it the ridge because it was on the ridge of town. So we'd have to go pretty far off campus to actually get there. Got in my car and we drove there. Parked probably a block or so away, just so if a police officer was making his rounds, he wouldn't immediately see us, run my plates, something like that. So you're trying to stay a bit low. So we get up to this place, and I had seen it from a distance before. I had never gotten very close to it. So my heart's kind of starting to palpitate a bit as we pull up to this big, hulking, old, creepy building.
What time of day or what time of night did you guys end up?
It was mid to late afternoon. It's 4:30, 5 o'clock. So the sun was still up.
Okay,
because
so
it's still light. Going into this place at nighttime, on top of being extremely creepy, dangerous. There's no lighting in this place.
No.
There's no electricity being pumped through there, and the windows had sort of gotten this layer of filth almost over them. So, and they'd been severely discolored over time. So natural light wasn't exactly at a premium in here. So we really decided we shouldn't go in the middle of the afternoon. Obviously, we want some dusky sort of effect, but still light enough where we could get ourselves around this place.
Okay.
So we find a break in the fence, and I remember, I have a clear memory of me pulling the fence with my hands and letting them through, and then sneaking through myself. And then there was the doorways had been mostly boarded up, so we had to find a side door, and there was this pile of just old, dirty, bashed-in bricks that was placed in front of this door and a collapsed staircase. So we had to climb up into this over these splintered boards with nails sticking out of them. There's bricks laying around everywhere. It's this really oppressive atmosphere. We walk in and it's these very tall ceilings. When it was being taken care of, this was probably a gorgeous building to look at.
Oh, probably. Now, how high would you say the ceilings were?
Maybe 12, 14 feet high.
Okay,
high.
And where did you guys, within the building itself, where would you say you entered at? What were your surroundings? Was this a place where the patients were kept, or?
Oh, it was one of the wards.
Okay.
I'm not really sure which one, but rows of rooms.
Okay.
Followed by, when we got down to the end of the hallway, there was a common room there sort of like a place where they would all like sit around, and I'm not even sure like what kind of like activities they would do with each other there. But we were looking for one specific room on the 3rd floor. Before I continue on what it is we found there, I'm going to tell a short story as to what we were looking for.
Okay.
In December of 1978, there was a patient by the name of Margaret Schilling. She was mute. I'm not exactly sure what type of disorder she had, but she was nonverbal completely. So all of her interactions with the nurses were through gestures with her hands and just physical movements and eye contact and various grunts, things like that she would use to communicate with them. She was wandering around by herself. Apparently, at times she would play hide and seek with the nurses, so it wasn't odd for her to be missing for times, and like they'd casually look for her, and like she would usually if they couldn't find her, because I guess she was pretty good at hiding, they would give up and she would just sort of wander back into her room. One day she wandered into a supply closet, a little used supply closet, and it was locked in. Because mute, nonverbal, also very passive, not aggressive, she wouldn't make any noise to alert anybody that she had been caught in this room. Days go by. She removes all of her clothing and lays down on the ground in front of a window with the sun coming in. She passes away. Another couple of weeks go by. They're not exactly sure how long she was there, but her body had started decomposing on the floor in the sunlight. One of the maintenance people making his rounds finally finds her dead in there. Now they clean up her body, they move it, but there is this stain on the ground in the shape of her body, permanently plastered to the ground. It's very, very clearly her. And if you'd like to see this yourself, you can do a Google image search, Athens County Asylum stain. All you have to do is type in stain, and it will pull up exactly what I am talking about. Now, I wanted to see this stain with my own eyes, because what was weird about it is that I was thinking that if they had scrubbed it very efficiently or resurfaced the floor in which they claimed to have, the stain should be gone, right? Mm-hmm. The stain kept reappearing.
Huh.
Regardless of what they did to this surface, it kept coming back. So I thought, like, that sounds too overblown, too convenient of a story. I gotta go see this myself. Back to us exploring through this place. We have to go up this half-destroyed staircase. Looks very, very unsafe. And at this point, I probably weighed close to 250 pounds. I was a big boy at this point. So I was a little self-conscious about climbing up the stairs, but made it up there, made it up into this room, and I opened this door, and I looked down on the ground, and there in front of me was the stain of this dead woman. Now, I'm not one to be really creeped out just by, like, things like, oh, this is a possessed thing, this is a haunted place. Seeing that outline of where a person had departed from their physical form really, like, got into me. That was really strange. Like, just the feeling of just, like, witnessing a spot where someone had very obviously died and left some sort of psychoactive energy there. It was very strange. Like, yeah, so that's probably the creepiest thing I've ever seen with my own eyes. And then after that, we just sort of we took a bunch of pictures. We jumped around the outside. There was like a whole bunch of like trees and places to like just like swing from. There was a big open common room with a lot of just as much natural light as you could get in this place. Yeah. And I have a picture of me standing in front of one of the benches that they sort of had in there. That it's a really, I'll give Cameron some credit. She took a really nice shot of me wearing my Punishment Athletics shirt, because I was really into MMA at the time. I wish I had chosen better clothing for this. But yeah, it's a really, really, well, it was a very cool place to just to experience, just like to feel the history there. And especially now that it's gone, I'm glad that I have some evidence that I was able to go there. But that's the creepiest thing I've ever seen.
That's very cool. All right, so you see the spot or the stain.
Yes.
Do you feel the creepiness was involved anything to, like, was it paranormal? Did you feel like there was something there, or was this the idea like you see the spot where someone has passed away? Like, is it that fear of like no, or is it just a weirdness of seeing a place where this is where this person passed?
See, that's a very interesting question because, as we alluded to before, when you go into these environments, you automatically have that feeling. Like, the entire time I was in this place, I was uneasy.
Yeah.
My senses were heightened, and I was very alert. I was very aware that I was going into a place that had some very dark history, was structurally not sound. Like, needed to be very aware of where you were stepping, where you were going. Like, there's no telling.
There's multiple levels of danger.
Oh, absolutely.
The building should be condemned.
Oh, yeah.
It has a like the presence of the building itself is foreboding. Absolutely. It has a supposed haunted history. It has a actual terrible history, and it's off limits.
Which is part of the excitement of the place, honestly. Like, breaking into this place, going through that fence, there with my friend and my girlfriend. Like, I'm impressing my friend and, like, being, like, a quasi-badass with my girlfriend at the time. It just, it all really alluded itself to a lot of, like, intense feelings.
Yeah,
and,
but that's the thing, though. Even before stepping in the building itself, you have these intense feelings because you're immediately doing something that, in the back of your mind, is like, I could get in trouble for this.
Right, and luckily we did not.
That's good. Many people do, which sucks. Trying to get into some of these places is impossible, and police watch them like a hawk because the police in certain areas, like around here, Helltown, they obviously know that people want to go and see it.
Right,
and it's it's private property. We can't go see it, so they wait around there. I know my one buddy, he got there, and within I forget how long he said, maybe 30 seconds. A cop rolled up on him.
Oh man, they must have seen him coming then.
Absolutely, it was just the cops watch these certain areas and they watch it like hawks because they know kids want to go in there, or people want to go in there and try to ghost hunt or check something out.
Right, which is there's nothing inherently wrong with that. I don't think. I mean, like, technically, it's trespassing.
It's trespassing, and I get the fact that a lot of people they're going in there and they might take something or they might destroy the. The other thing I always find funny is they might destroy the building, which is already neglected and not being careful.
Like, this decrepit place, you're going to destroy it? Like,
it's private property. Well, apparently no one's fucking keeping up with it, so why bother worrying about it?
You're going to have to pay someone to destroy this place at a certain point. You might as well let us do it for free and have fun while we're doing it. Demolition's very fun.
Yeah, but I mean, for the most part, it's people who want to go in there, who hear these stories, and they want to experience the place.
Right, and it's out of a curiosity for the strange, which I know you and I both harbor. We wouldn't be doing this podcast if we didn't.
No.
And that's it. Like, we're not trying to cause trouble. We're not trying to destroy things. We just want an experience.
Exactly. We want to go out there and experience something. Because, like you've said, you've never seen a ghost. I've never seen a ghost.
And I'd like to.
I'd like to as well. I'd like to see something.
I would like to form an unbiased opinion from a personal experience. Because I know a lot of other people claim to have personal experiences, and you always have to take that with so many grains of salt. Not just a grain of salt, just several of them. Because there's just factors like personal attention and people's own, just construed viewpoints of things. And memory is not very reliable at all.
No.
It's one of the, witness testimony is one of the least reliable sources when it comes to criminal investigation, really anything. I mean,
that's correct.
And how many people just want to tell a good story so you'll listen to them and listen to their words for a little while?
Yeah, and then that by itself, people will embellish.
Oh, absolutely.
They want their experience to seem more grandiose than what it was. Like, if you add a ghost to it, well, yeah, that's really cool. Other than that, I was walking through a field.
Right, and I think most people are guilty of this. Like, really think to yourself how many times you've just embellished a story that other people can't call bullshit on, unless it's really obviously, hyperbolic or very obviously explainable. You want to tell a good story. You'd like to captivate people. I think most people have that inherent need and want to do so.
Yes, you want to be the center of attention. You want other people to take interest in what you're doing.
Which is what you're about to do, because you're about to tell us your personal experience with the paranormal.
Excellent. All right. So, the experience I will recount. Now, like you, I have never seen a ghost. I have never had an experience where I've personally never had an experience where I wasn't able to, in some way or another, discredit it. Because that's the way I deal with these sort of things. If something weird happens, I'm like, well, what could this have been? I'm not immediately jumping to ghosts. I'm not immediately jumping to something paranormal.
Because we're both inherently skeptics.
Yes. I'm jumping to the fact that I have cats in my house. I'm jumping to the fact that, places like old buildings and so forth, they creak, they move, they shift, it happens, they make noises. I'm not an expert in anything electrical, HVAC, mechanical. Things make noises. Plumbing, I don't understand it. I'm not fluent with it. Like I know these buildings are abandoned and they shouldn't have power or things like that, but I'm sometimes guessing that, air gets trapped in pipes, things pop, things break, things make noise. That happens.
Absolutely does happen. And let's say like you're a coroner and you don't know about the what a death rattle is. Could you imagine like some people's accounts when dead bodies are placed in front of them, they're about to start performing autopsies, and they just take out a large exhaling breath? Oh my god.
How unsettling. Is this person alive?
Even if you know it's coming, that is fucking bonkers. Like that is going to take someone down a peg. Like, ugh! Like you're gonna have to go home and like really center yourself. Like I'm gonna tell a quick story about that, just because like dead bodies are very very interesting to me.
Well, that's a good sign.
Yeah, it's a great sign.
Let me lead into the story. Dead bodies are really interesting to me.
So, a friend of mine was working, he was pre-med, and he had to do some work on some human bodies, which all med students have to do at a certain point. He had to work at night with one of the, not a coroner, I can't remember what the doctor's called. This story's getting worse. Anyway, they flick on the lights. There was a new body that was still upon a table. The body was sitting straight up because of rigor mortis. So they were expecting this person to be laying down on the table. The body was sitting straight up, cocked up, eyes open, mouth agape. And that's how you walk into a room. He said he's never been able to walk back into that. He had to change universities after that because he was so freaked out by it. He didn't want to walk into this particular medical examination room ever again.
Did he remain pre-med at least?
Yeah, he did. He's a doctor now. He's doing fairly well. But
good.
He told me that story when we were very drunk and it was dark outside, and that shook me up.
That's creepy.
Yeah, it's extremely creepy. Please continue with yours.
Okay, so jumping back to my story. So, I set myself up there to be a skeptic, so that's how I'm going to approach everything. Still love the weird, because of all the weird things out there, I don't think all of them can be just brushed away as an explainable occurrence. Not yet, anyways. So I always like looking for those very few things that could happen where I'm like, I don't know how that happened. Mm-hmm. I also have a guilty pleasure of loving ghost hunting shows and monster hunting shows. It's my guilty pleasure. I think it's all ridiculous, but I love them.
It is ridiculous, but you have to admit there's a certain amount of entertainment that goes along with it.
Oh, there is. If anyone ever gets a chance to watch Mountain Monsters, that is the... I can't... it's so good. It's so tasty, that show.
God, you had me watch that one with Zach Bagans. What was the name of that show?
Oh, that's Ghost Adventures.
Ghost Adventures, not Ghost Hunters.
No, Ghost Hunters is another one.
Right. There's a lot of these.
There are, but Mountain Monsters, ladies and gentlemen. Mountain Monsters, watch... it's individuals from the Appalachians, and they go out and they hunt the supposed creatures that roam the Appalachian Mountains from... They've gone like Pennsylvania, southern Ohio, or southeastern Ohio, in the foothills there. And they end up looking for versions of Bigfoot and other monsters and stuff. But if you ever get a chance to watch, do it. It's amazing. Men wandering the forest with guns, chasing at sounds and shooting.
There's a lot of wooded area where a lot of unexplained things can occur.
That's right.
Someone told me that Ohio, the state that we currently reside in, was so abundant with flora and fauna. So many trees, to be specific, that you could cross the state, north to south, east or west, without touching the ground. That is how many trees are in our state. It's a lot of room out there to get lost in, because we've industrialized the state quite a bit. While you're driving down to Athens, Ohio, going down State Route 71, you will see a lot of trees.
That's right. There's a lot of Ohio. By comparison, it has a good amount of major cities in it, but there's also just those blank expanses. But I'm sure every state has those between major cities. You have those blank expanses of farmland and forests. And
I think Ohio is kind of unique in that way, though, because the difference between North Ohio, well, Northeast Ohio to be more specific, and Southern Ohio, it's just, there's a big swing. They call it a swing state for a reason, because you have a lot of different kinds of people here. Because when you get into Southern Ohio, you're bordering on the South. Southern Ohio, Northern Kentucky are pretty much one big thing when you get around the Cincinnati sort of area.
Culture's different.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting, diverse state to live in for sure. Whereas people like us in the northeast parts of Ohio, like we're more like
those of us who inhabit the Western Reserve.
That's
are proud people.
We are proud people. We take a lot of pride in Cleveland, Ohio. We get a bad rap for being the mistake by the lake, but we have a lot of things going for us. None of this has anything to do with ghosts. Awesome.
Back to ghosts. We ramble. We apologize.
No, we don't. No, we don't apologize. We do ramble.
We do ramble. Okay.
But if you're listening to this, you want to hear us talk.
Yes. So, ghost story. So, I like the weird things. I've been on a couple weird road trips, but the one I finally got to do, which was one I really wanted to do, was myself, my wife, and my two cousins. We went down to the Mansfield Reformatory.
Oh, that is a creepy, creepy place.
It is. It's awesome. And they do ghost tours. It's one of the... We've never been able to find a whole lot of facilities that do this, especially with some of the famous local haunted places around Cleveland, like Franklin Castle, Gray's Armory, some of these really historic places where you're like, I'd really love to go in there and look around. I've heard so many stories. Usually they're privately owned. They don't allow this sort of thing.
Which sort of adds to the mystique of them.
Yeah.
And in a way, because the fact that you can't go in there makes you want to go in there more. Kind of like the Ridges.
Yes. That's part of it. And that's all you ever get, though. You get these weird, watered-down stories. And you're like, what could be in that house? No one can go in that house. Why can't we go in that house? Because it's a bed and breakfast and you have to pay.
What is that one house that's a bed and breakfast? The grisly murders that happened. There was a woman who killed her husband and his lover, and it's a bed and breakfast now.
I don't know what that one is. Can we stay there?
I mean, yeah. I don't want to sleep in any of these places. At least... I definitely don't want to sleep in any of these places by myself, because I will get in my own head, and I will start freaking out. I won't sleep every Saturday. What was that? No. What's that? Put that down.
Put that down.
Yeah. Ghost.
Ghost.
Whoever you are.
Levitating.
Yeah, what? Ghosts are always levitating. You never see a ghost just walking around. Strolling. Well, unless you're talking about the Billy Zane movie, The Phantom, which he was referred to as the ghost that walks.
Oh, well, yeah.
It's a terrible
That is
movie.
Specific. That is...
That's what they called him. I don't know why, they called him the ghost that walks.
He wasn't cool enough to hover.
It was just really, really... It was a bad movie. He was in a purple suit. He looked like a ripped Grimace from McDonald's. The purple Grimace.
Oh, I know the Grimace.
Oh, he... Imagine if he did a lot of crunches, became Billy Zane, rode a horse, and wore a skull ring on his finger that shot lasers.
And supported High Lord McDonald and his empire.
And his burger empire.
Okay, jumping back to Mansfield. So we get there. The tour starts around 7. The tour starts at 7 o'clock. You can go on a tour beforehand. You can check in and go on a tour. The lights go out at 8. So, or 8 or 9, depending.
There's still power running through this place.
They still have power running through it, but what they do is they shut everything down.
Gotcha.
So everything goes dark except they have one little room, which is kind of a base camp that you guys use. And at the middle of the night, they bring pizza and everything over, so you keep you fed.
That's good.
But the really cool thing, so they have these tours, and I believe in the summertime they're almost weekly. There's no heat to the place, so they don't do it over the winter.
Yeah, that would be uncomfortable.
Yeah, it would be awful. I've been there in early spring when I went there once to do a clean out, they cleaned the prison out, and we tried to do a ghost hunt overnight that night, and it was so cold that we just couldn't stay.
You had to leave?
We left because we were freezing.
Oh, that stinks.
We were just there. We were our teeth were chattering. We were trying to do EVP sessions and other weird stuff. Couldn't do it anymore. We were just it's too cold.
It's awful.
It was terrible. But this night it was an August night. It was nice and warm. So we go and we get there. The building is ominous. It's huge. It's that old style prison. It's stone. You can see like there's the main entrance. There's two entrances. It looks like, because it used to be the two old like at this time when they were, or at the time the prison was built, the warden and the assistant warden lived on site.
Oh, wow.
So the house, like their residencies were attached to the prison.
I feel like that's not normal.
It's not, but when they were, I think back then it was, because when it was originally built, I think this was a reformatory for, and when they say reformatory, it was originally built for young men, like teenagers and things like that, who were off on the wrong foot and needed to kind of get back on the right track.
So you're talking about like a lot of energy, misplaced aggression, testosterone. It's young men, young teenage men.
Yes, exactly. And so I think that was the original purpose of the prison. Like what they also had on site were they had like buildings where you would learn trades and things like that. Kind of what prisons should be doing now, with instead of like you go into prison and then you serve your time and you come out. They also at this time they were doing rehabilitation in these early days and trying to teach like these young men like trades and crafts and how to things to do with their lives and skills.
So when they return to society, they can contribute in some way.
So they don't come back to society and they're like, all I know is prison.
Right.
When that was originally built, the warden and the assistant warden with their families lived on site. So the tour took us through. We explored a good portion of the prison. They took us through the warden and the assistant warden's quarters. They took us through. There were some really, really cool places. There was some kind of offices that ran between the assistant wardens and the warden's quarters. It's 3 floors.
Oh, wow.
So you can go up each of these floors, and it's the living quarters on each level.
There's like hanging. I'm picturing sort of like hanging like walkways and like sort of.
It wouldn't even be hanging walkways. Like it was a completely sound walkway between one side and the other.
Oh, wow.
So you can go down a hallway from the assistant warden's house to get to the warden's house, and there were some offices and rooms in between.
Sure.
And there were doorways and stuff to segregate like your house from the prison, but there were also, but you could access those points if you wanted to. You could walk through and get to them. So there were no hanging walkways at that area. And then from the assistant's warden quarters, so it's 3 floors. So you have these 2 structures interconnected by hallways on all 3 levels. They cut straight back. So the only way to get back to the next part would be to go through the center section on one of the 3 levels. And that would take you back off to the side with the 2 wings of the prison, where there was an east and west cell block.
Okay.
One of them, there was only one originally, I believe. I think it was the west cell block. Someone can correct me on that via a hateful comment about me not having my facts correct. But I think the west cell block, it was it's the older one. It was like stone or brick built, so it has that old feel to it.
Of course.
The eastern block is steel.
Oh.
So it was built. I think it was built afterwards.
Gotcha.
So we get shown through there, and the individual who's taking us on this tour is also explaining all the weird paranormal spots that we can go see.
Okay, so like he was explaining to you what had occurred in this place to make it haunted.
Yes, so we were getting a background on everything.
Okay.
So like they were explaining hot spots to go to, where should we go look, and things like that. There was the tale of the warden and his wife. I believe it was the warden's wife who accidentally she got shot on accident because the warden had stashed his gun. Where he stashed his gun was up on top of a hat box, and his wife brought it down, and it discharged and shot her.
Oh man!
And they took her to the hospital where she died.
Oh,
but it was back in the time where you couldn't, like, an ambulance didn't show up, like you had to take her to town.
Oh my gosh, she could have bled out on the way there.
Which I believe she did.
Oh,
so.
Man.
But there's a lot of activity supposedly in the warden's and the assistant warden's quarters. So the other cool thing is that the Shawshank Redemption was filmed there. So you see all the old parts of the movie props and things like that from scenes of the film. So that was really cool. Side note.
It is very cool. And that's definitely the kind of place where you would want to have a movie like the Shawshank Redemption film. And I think like a big part of that movie's success is the atmosphere that it creates.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's authentic. And I think that's what they were going for.
Oh, yeah. And just like you said, when you're wandering around the ridges, when you're wandering through here, my wife described it perfectly. She's like, some of the hallways, like in the warden's quarters and the assistant warden's quarters, it looked like something out of Silent Hill.
Oh gosh.
Just like paint and everything peeling off the walls and hanging. It's just paint chips everywhere. It doesn't look like it's dilapidated because the individuals who do these tours and all the money and proceeds go back to keeping the prison like standing upright.
Right.
So they invest this money back into this historical building.
Which is that's a great thing.
That is a great thing.
For historical purposes and just because people like us who want creepy places to hang out.
Yes. Like cemeteries
Right.
and the asylum and Mansfield Reformatory.
I find cemeteries to be very calm and peaceful and restful.
That's right.
I feel like that when you take someone into a cemetery, like people don't die at the cemetery. Their physical shells are taken there for peace and for rest. I think a lot of people that have felt ghostly experiences and look for them would agree that the site in which something terrible happens or the site in which someone leaves our plane of existence is where the hauntings would be most likely to occur.
Yeah. I feel the same way. And you would have also loved the idea that like cemeteries are peaceful and restful. That all comes about partially due to the rural cemetery movement, which is the idea of building these beautiful, elaborate like parks. I mean, if you go to a cemetery like Lakeview.
Oh yeah, Lakeview's gorgeous.
Lakeview's gorgeous. It's built to be a park. People are interred here, but
right.
It's also a place where like you can go and take a wonderful stroll through there, and you look at this great like the monuments that people left behind. It's incredible.
Daffodil Hill. It's literally a hill covered in daffodils. It's beautiful. It's just this hill covered in gorgeous flowers that you go with. I went and saw a concert with my mother and sister there.
Yes, it's
a cemetery.
It's a park. It's meant to be beautiful. It's meant to attract people. It's meant to make you want to go there.
Right.
It's a very interesting concept.
Luckily, it doesn't make you want to die.
No. It makes you want to live.
Right. Thankfully.
So jumping back to Mansfield. So yes, all the proceeds go to keeping this historic building up and running. So they take us through. They explain a whole bunch of the stuff. We see the cell blocks. And, I mean, the cell blocks are terrifying because, again, there's no electricity. You have light filtering through dirty windows that are up along the walls.
Right.
Some of them don't have panes of glass anymore. Some of them do.
Right.
So you get these cool, like, light effects going through. And some of the levels are blocked off and off limits because they're some of the flooring and some of the actual, like, safety bars along the side have given out. So they don't allow you to go there because you could just fall off from 3 stories up and die.
Oh, Christ.
So they showed us that. They showed us the shower area where a lot of paranormal stuff supposedly happens.
Ugh, it sounds like there'd be a lot of misplaced sexual tension energy in a man's shower in a reformatory.
And they told us some specific weird stories. Like there's this one individual who always apparently comes in there. It's a male figure because this woman apparently is also a psychic. There's always a male figure that comes in there who's kind of very stern, and he apparently loved baseball, and so if you ever talk to him about baseball, apparently he's super responsive to that.
Just very interesting.
Very interesting, very strange thing. So eventually, we finish the tour, we go into the little break room, lights get kicked off, so everything goes out. You can start hunting. The really crappy part about it is the sheer number of people they let in.
How many people were you in there with?
100.
100?
Yep.
How many square feet is this place?
It's huge. The place is massive, but since they showed us the local hotspots, trying to get into a place without other people being around is nearly impossible.
I feel like that's really disruptive to the energy. Like, having an experience, I feel like that's a very, like a personal thing.
Yeah.
And it's not something you do, like, in front of, like, a big audience filled with people. And furthermore, I feel like a spirit would be less conducive to communicating if you've got, like, a group of people around. You don't do group therapy with 100 people all asking you questions, trying to, like, observe you at the same time.
Each one holding up a piece of electrical equipment, trying to capture a voice or record some kind of electrical phenomenon.
Was there a lot of that? Were a lot of people like bringing like scientific like measuring equipment?
I saw the gamut from like recorders. Like, everyone had cameras and flashlights, but I saw some people have, like, voice recorders. Some people had laser grids, which I always think are pretty cool.
They look cool. I'm not sure how effective that would be in assessing paranormal energy.
Well, the one thing I think they try to do with it is if something manifests, like you're pinpointing a whole thing of light along a wall or a hallway. So if something were to take shape or you're seeing a shadow, if you see something block out any of those lights, you're trying to get a better idea of what this thing might be in perspective to where this light source is.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, it's actually kind of a cool like idea they're using it for. I don't know how successful it is. It'd be something to look up and see.
I think we should do a show about this in the future, like ghost hunting equipment, what it's actually made to do versus what
they're using it for.
Yeah, exactly. what a ghost hunter, in quotation marks, thinks that they're interpreting.
Yes, that's another part of the problem.
Because I've heard of like EVP, like electronic voice phenomenon, which just be like. Actually, never mind. We'll discuss this at a later time. But yeah, I feel like it's almost as if a spirit would know that, like, you're not there with pure intentions. You're there because you want to, like, get your own source of attention, like capture something and then spread it around to everybody else. Like, look at this ghost thing that I found, and sort of like it's almost like not mocking, but it's sort of disrespectful because you have to like think as if you're going to communicate with a spirit, it's not like a ghost is a thing, it's a person, or was a person. Yes,
the concept of a spirit, you should approach it as though the person was still alive.
Right. And
that's
maybe,
how you.
Maybe I'm being overly sentimental about this, but I know if I was a spirit, unfinished business, and I was sort of inhabiting an area to bring closure to myself, I wouldn't be revealing myself to a group of strangers who are all there poking and prodding at my in what essentially is my home.
Yeah, I mean, but then again, we're also discussing as though we know how ghosts work,
which we don't,
or if ghosts are real. Again, another thing that's never been determined.
Right, we've discussed this. We're just as much an expert as anyone else. So.
That's right, which means fully
accredited ghost hunters. You and I. Let's slap on our proton packs and start blasting away.
That's right. So we go lights out and we finally start to get exploring. We go all around the place, and I mean we're trying to get to certain places. I know my wife specifically. We've gone twice now, and we still have not been able to get there. Where the showers they showed us. Still haven't gotten in there by ourselves to do anything. There's always a group of people in there because that's one of the big hot spots that people want to go to. So you can rarely find anything. Where we had the most success in actually getting some weird stuff that happened was I think it was the wardens and the assistant wardens' quarters. That's where we had that was where we had the most interesting stuff happen.
And in relation to where you entered the building and where most of the people were, was this sort of like an offshoot kind of a place, like a less popular hotspot?
I wouldn't say it was a less popular hotspot, but people, I think they want to get, like the wardens and the assistant wardens' quarters. I mean, they were homes that they lived in. I think more people were attracted to the creepier, like the dingy, like the cell blocks and the showers and solitary confinement. Right. Which is where we had one other interesting thing happen in solitary.
Those are all places that would historically have a lot of negative energy associated with them.
So people kind of flocked there. People would be moving through the rooms and everything and checking them out. But you never found like occasionally you find a group of people camped out somewhere doing something. But for the most part, it's just kind of people moving through.
Sure.
So coming up and down the stairs, like moving through the facility. So we had stopped on the second floor of the warden's quarters, and we were doing. I've seen people, like, again, I learned this kind of from watching TV shows. They kind of do a flashlight test where they turn a flashlight on, they unscrew the flashlight enough to where it just goes out. So if anything ever wanted to communicate, all it would have to do was go over the flashlight and, like, manipulate it slightly. Either push a button, like touch a button, or touch the flashlight itself to make it turn on. So when we were in there, we had a couple occurrences where the flashlight would turn on by itself. When we had it turned off, no one around it. We'd even, like, we would turn it off, we would kind of stand near it or stomp around by it to see if we can trigger it. Nothing would happen. But randomly it would turn on. Now, my issue was sometimes it would turn on and stay on, which makes me think the connector just hit back together for some reason.
Right, a circuit was
Completed,
right?
Because if it was standing up or something, gravity took its pull or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The one weird time that happened is we had one where it, or twice I should say, we had one time where it turned on, turned off, turned on.
Mm-hmm.
So that was interesting,
Mm-hmm.
and no one was around. It was set off like it had. We were all sitting, looking at it, and it was pointed towards us.
Mm-hmm.
So it went on, off, on. That was kind of cool, and then it stayed on after that. The other time was one of the first experiences we had. We were all kind of set up around the room, like in different spots. I was really close to the flashlight. I was probably a couple feet away from it. I was the closest one to it.
Mm-hmm.
What I remember happening before it, I don't remember if it turned on or not, but I distinctly remember a metallic sound. I had this little metal flashlight,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember hearing a metallic sound, and it confused me because it made me think like the flashlight rolled,
Mm-hmm.
like how it might have had that raised area where the actual like button is, or the where you can slide the flashlight on and off, like
Mm-hmm.
how that would be raised, and if that were to like roll and hit the floor because it couldn't pass beyond that point, it sounded like that.
Mm-hmm.
And out of the corner of my eye, I could swear I saw it move, but it was out of the corner of my eye.
Mm.
So I could never verify if that happened.
Sure. Your eyes and your mind
Yeah.
can very easily play tricks on
But
you.
I distinctly remember, thought I saw it move, and I know I heard the sound, like a metal
Mhm.
chink. So that was weird.
That is weird.
The other thing we caught, which was back, so you're there from 9, I think you can stay until 4.
4 a.m.?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're there from, you arrive at 7, you can stay till 4. Lights
Mm-hmm.
are out at like 9 o'clock. So you get a good amount of ghost hunting.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And we were in solitary confinement. We were going from cell to cell and looking through there, and it's creepy.
Mhm.
It's solitary.
It's a fucked up place, for
Yep.
sure.
So remember, all lights are out in the situation, and my one cousin stayed in the cell and took a picture, and the rest of us had moved. Let's say that my cousin's looking out of the cell. The rest of us had moved off to the left if that individual was looking out.
Okay.
Took a picture and caught something very strange, and I don't know what to make of it. It's just, so the flash went off on the camera, and near the center of the flash, or in the center of the picture itself, there's this weird, it's a weird shadow.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have form to it. It doesn't look like a person or anything, but there was no other light source to bounce that off of.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't look like a finger coming over that, because the shadow it's in the center of the frame, and it doesn't trail off to any edge of the actual picture. So it's in the center itself. So unless something was maybe on the lens or right on the lens of the flash, which seems like maybe a piece of, I don't know if dust could have done that, but it's kind of transparent, and it looks like it's kind of partially against the bars, partially coming through or behind them. And there's no other light sources to cast shadows, and all of us were far enough away down the hall that we weren't in the picture itself. We were down the hall and away from where the picture was taken. So I don't know what would have cast that or what would have made that. It's just a really weird picture.
Yeah.
So that's our one weird thing we caught. I don't know what to make of it, but in going there, I mean, it was just a really cool experience to go to a place like that and see that.
Absolutely, and we should go there. I bounced this idea off you before that we should host an episode of our podcast from the inside of there. I think that would be a nice ambiance. Perhaps do like a live sort of with the microphone, like a live walkthrough, describe what we're seeing. Maybe take some cameras with us as well, and just sort of do like a live streaming thing of us walking through one of these places, one of these creepy places.
I also thought of building on that too. If we can, they do private tours. If you get enough people, it costs a little bit of money, like $1,000.
Okay, so how many people do we need? We want to get like 10, 12 people to go. We can throw down a little bit of cash for that.
And I thought what would be cool is if we set up in one of the rooms to do a podcast, like one of the rooms that's kind of off from everywhere, and have everyone go out and kind of go out and investigate and come back, and we can ask people what they were seeing, where they went, did they experience anything, and all sorts of fun like that. So, I mean, I think we should start going places and doing this, like going to Mansfield Reformatory, going UFO watching over Lake Erie. We can go Bigfoot hunting in Ohio God's sake, if we wanted to.
We're going to do some of these things. It's not like if we're going to eventually. This is our thing. We want to do these things.
Mm-hmm. This is just an excuse. We have a podcast now. This is our momentum to actually just go and do stuff.
Well, why not? I mean, we were going to do it anyway. We might as well bring you.
Bring me along.
Yeah, just bring everybody along with
Putting
us.
everyone in the car and driving you down.
Yeah, sure. What was the name of that festival down in Arkansas?
The Folk County Monster.
Right.
We got to go down to that festival.
The Folk County Monster. This is inspired a movie called Boggy Creek, which there was a sequel to called Boggy Creek 2 and the Legend Continues, which is one of my favorite episodes of Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Because it's one of the best.
It's fantastically stupid. My gosh. Charles B. Pierce writes, directs, and stars in a Bigfoot flick down in the swamplands of Arkansas.
Which are inspired by supposed accounts of the Folk County Monster, which is a Bigfoot.
Which is another Bigfoot.
Swamp.
It's one of the Bigfoots that we discussed on our one of our previous episodes. If you haven't checked that out, please do, because it's interesting.
Yeah, fourth dimensional Bigfoot.
Fourth dimensional portal sliding Bigfoot. We'll be doing another Bigfoot podcast in the future, doing a different sect of Bigfoot. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for that. Well, there's a lot to cover in it. My gosh, like just the history of Bigfoot is so immense. It's a little intimidating, to be completely honest. Like,
we're gonna have to buy books about this.
I don't know if I'm gonna go that far.
I'm gonna have to buy books about this and then tell you about what I discovered.
Austin will read books about this, and I will enthusiastically support your buying of the books.
You're gonna watch me as I shop on Amazon.
I love watching people do online shopping. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Really buy that Bigfoot costume. You get that one.
Bigfoot costume. I mean, I don't think we want to maybe we should. Maybe we should dress up as Bigfoot, go out into weird places, and see if people go running to tell. I saw Bigfoot!
That was one of my ideas to do for an anthropology final. Or even if I went and did a doctorate or a folklore, or if I got somewhere and decided to get a master's or PhD in folklore, the idea of myth and legend and urban legends and things like that, how they're created and how they're spawned, I wanted to either make or dress up as a monster, go to a location, get seen, also survive possibly being shot, and then, because that's really a concern actually, is going out there.
Oh my gosh, someone's going to try to hunt you.
Yes.
Someone is going to try to take you down if you dress up as Bigfoot and go running around in Ohio.
Let me tell you, I am not, while I have a soft, doughy runner's body, the pinnacle of runners,
right.
I am. I don't think I'd get away.
No, especially if you were wearing a Bigfoot costume.
No, I'm already lumpy, but I'd be more lumpy. I'd be lumpier, and
You're missing an ACL, are you not?
I am missing an ACL.
Oh my gosh.
Bigfoot runs with a limp.
Oh my gosh, limpy Bigfoot.
Like Bigfoot got a knee injury back in grade school, and he's never recovered.
So is that just going to be... is that manslaughter? If someone takes you down, who's at fault there? You, the idiot dressed up as Bigfoot, or the other idiot who thought it was a good idea to shoot and kill Bigfoot?
Well, we'd have to look at the state laws versus non-game mammals,
right,
like we did in California.
Right, because it is illegal to shoot Bigfoot in California.
That's right. So even if we had similar laws here in Ohio, then it'd still be illegal to shoot Bigfoot. So he'd be in the wrong from beginning until end when it was discovered it was just a person.
You could be a hero, sir. You
could be
a
hero.
You could be a hero to Bigfoot culture, to Bigfoot enthusiasts, and most importantly, the poster boy of Bigfoot apologists who are fighting for the rights of Bigfoot.
That's right.
All across our fine nation.
Well, we got off topic of ghosts real quick, but that's all right.
That's what we do at this show. This is very interesting. We're going to dive more into other ghost stories, non-personal ones, but I think we like to kick off the type of topics that we speak about with sort of our own personal viewpoints on how these things work and things that we've experienced, like the things that led us to this particular interest of paranormal stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, having the personal touch about all of this to show, like, hey, we're one of you. We like this sort of thing. We might not have the same exact idea of what it is, but we're willing to discuss it. We're willing to look into it and delve into it. I'm also willing to shred it.
Oh, we will, and we're going to.
And on that note, everyone, please feel free to submit weird stories to us.
Please, I would love love to hear personal accounts, maybe less popular stories, accounts, legends. Really, anything that's weird, kick it our way. We would love to discuss some of the things that you hold dear, maybe you also think are weird. And if you have weird Craigslist ads, that's my favorite thing. I might even not talk about them. I might just read those when I'm bored. So please, entertain me. No, just kidding. But I think this was very, very interesting.
Very spooky.
Oh, yes. Spooky.
The warehouse is still dark.
The warehouse is getting darker. The sun is going down. I think we're the last people left here to work. Instead of going home to our families, your wife, my empty apartment, we stayed here and talked about ghosts in the place where we work.
With the ghost of unfinished work.
Well, that I will be that ghost then, because there's always more work for us to do.
Oh, yeah.
Especially for me. Good Lord. All right. Ghost hunters, specters, not Austin's cat. Real
my
specters. Austin has a cat named Spectre. We should have probably talked about that at the beginning. But until next time, stay spooky and stay weird.
Paranormal A to Z is written and produced by Zach Shanes and Austin Sashko. Most of this week's dialogue was falsely detected by misused science equipment and reinterpreted as a podcast. The opening theme is Ascension by Ruled by Reason. You can access their music on their Facebook page, facebook.com/Ruled by Reason. All cited articles and references will be linked onto soundcloud.com/Paranormal A to Z. You can also access and share the show on our YouTube page. For paranormal updates, articles, and general weirdness, follow our Twitter at Paranormal A to Z. You know what makes this show possible and promotes the ethereal rumblings coming from under your bed? You, the undisputed champion of the odd. Thank you for listening and supporting the strange. And remember, be as normal as paranormal allows.